Hi everyone. Today we're going to be utilizing knowledge of design, so that means overlapping, cropping, design principles, in order to create a dynamic, abstract shape composition. Abstract means non-representational, so we're not going to be doing a drawing that is representing anything per se. However, we're going to be drawing an abstract design made up of shapes. Now I'm asking that you choose geometric shapes, which are shapes with straight edges that are man-made. If you use geometric shapes, please use a ruler. Or you can use organic shapes, which are shapes that are curving, that are found in nature, or a combination of both. So you're going to create a design with shapes, geometric, organic, or both. And I would like you to have at least 5 or more shapes within the space. When you create those designs, you are organizing space in a way that helps me to assess how your brain looks at things. And this is an important part of becoming an artist, is learning how to develop compositions and to be aware spatially of position and placement on the page. So this is an exercise in your spatial awareness. I am looking for several things in each design. It is open-ended aside from these guidelines. Number 1, make sure that you draw big enough so that you don't have a lot of negative space. The negative space is your background space. Think of negative as a bad thing. You want to make sure that you fill it up because background space and negative spaces tends to be boring. You don't need a lot of it. The second thing I want you to do is to overlap. So putting things on top of one another helps to create a sense of depth in a design. In addition, movement. Visual movement is a really important part of drawing the viewer's eye throughout the image rather than having it just stay in the center. So when we want to create visual movement, which is a principle by the way, you can do this one of 2 ways. You can position the shapes throughout the image so that you are forcing the viewer to kind of look around, or you can do it with the shapes themselves that are positioned on the page. Having a flow, having shapes that move, creates that visual movement. I also want you to think about another design principle, which is balance. Think of your space as a scale. You want to make sure that you have elements on both sides of the scale. So for example, you wouldn't put all of your shapes on one side of the page and leave the other blank. You want to have a sense of balance. This goes for any art piece. You can have asymmetrical balance or symmetrical balance. There's 2 kinds. This is an example of, you got it, asymmetrical balance. So meaning if we put a line down the center, it is balanced, however, it's not balanced as a mirror image. If you have the same things happening on both sides, that would be an example of symmetrical balance. And in addition to those design principles of movement and balance and overlapping and drawing large, I want you to also crop. So this example in the corner here is an example of a shape that is cropped off the page. Cropping creates visual interest for the viewer. They tend to wonder what's happening beyond there. So we want to include those things. How you do your design is completely up to you. So what I want you to think about today is your overall composition. This is your layout. What kind of shapes are you going to be using? How are they positioned on the page? Remember, at least 5, if not more. So what you want to do first, this is an 8.5 by 11 sheet of, it's just plain copy paper. You can use sketchbook paper, whatever you have available. We always want to frame out our compositions or whatever art pieces that you're making. Creating a frame makes it look more professional and helps presentation. So the easiest way to do a border is not to measure it. However, you just take a ruler. Rulers are 1 inch thick. And you just line it up flush meaning line it up with the edge, and create a line. Flip your page. And you would do this for all sides. If you don't have a ruler, anything with a straight edge, a book, a folder. But this to me is the easiest way to create a border, and it really kind of creates a nice frame. Once you have your border, you want to decide, do you want to hold your paper landscape, which would be the long way, or portrait, which would be the tall way? I'm going to choose to hold mine portrait, just a preference. And I want to decide, okay, what is my composition going to look like? How do I create movement? You may need to do this a few times and just sort of experiment with sketches. I've decided to make some circles, so I'm going to use geometric shapes. Your shapes can vary. I'm going to use all circles, and I'm using a roll of tape to create those circles. If you are going to do something circular, you can use a water bottle. You can use really anything that's circular. And I'm keeping mine the same size for the reason that I'm tracing them. And I'm going to do a bunch of circles. Now look what's happening here. We have some cropping going off the page, and I'm also going to create cropping on the bottom. So it's going off the page here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 shapes. I'm using geometric shapes. There is a sense of movement. There is cropping going off the page. And now I'm going to show you how to create a sense of overlap. So when we want one thing to be on top of another, so for example, if I wanted this shape to overlap these two circles, number one, I'm going to erase that border because it's overlapping, right? When something is on top of another thing, you won't see what's underneath. So for example, if my hand is on top of the other hand, I will no longer see my ring. So think about what's on the top, what's on the bottom, creating that sense of overlapping. Now this circle is going to be overlapping this border. Okay, so now I have a really simple design with these images or these circles that kind of overlap and underlap. I'm going to leave this here and I'm going to leave this here and I'll show you why later. So now I have my composition. I feel good about it. There's a sense of movement. It's balanced asymmetrically, and I think I'm ready to go. The next thing that you want to really think about moving to the next lesson is positive and negative space and patterns. I'm going to be talking in the next assignment about what areas you want to block in dark and what areas you want to leave white. We're only going to be working in black and white for this assignment. And then do you want to include a pattern? Yes or no, you don't have to. Just kind of adds to the interest of the design. Email me with any questions. Good luck, be creative. I can't wait to see what you come up with.